Dear friends and cherished members of our faith community, with hearts overflowing with hope and immense gratitude, we extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to each and every one of you who have gathered with us today on our channel. It is our sincere prayer that the peace and boundless grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you continually, guiding and comforting you in all aspects of your lives. In today's video, we are privileged to share with you a deeply profound and poignant near-death experience that has been sent to us by a beloved sister in faith. Her experience offers a unique and harrowing glimpse into a realm beyond our earthly existence. During her journey, she encountered the renowned Michael Jackson, who shared with her the reasons behind his condemnation to hell and the extraordinary torment he endures. As we delve into this narrative, we invite you to open your hearts and minds to the gravity of this account. Now, let us embark on this journey together. In the midst of my most harrowing hour, I found myself teetering on the edge of surrender. The relentless struggle against the confines of my own body had left me utterly depleted, and the hope of finding any semblance of relief seemed as though it was receding into the far distance, forever out of reach. As I took what I believed to be the final step toward what I hoped would be an eternal peace, a profound and unexpected transformation began to unfold. The excruciating physical pain that had tormented me for what felt like an eternity began to wane, replaced by an overwhelming, pervasive fatigue. My vision became clouded, and the once clear edges of the world around me softened and melted into an enveloping darkness. I lay back on the bench, gazing up at the sky with a curious and unsettling sense of relief. The end was now imminent, bringing with it the promise of liberation from the relentless torment I had endured. As my thoughts drifted towards my beloved parents, I wished them nothing but profound happiness and peace. It was my deepest desire that they would remember me as a burden, but as someone who had loved them profoundly and was now finally free from suffering. As the world around me continued to fade into obscurity, I drew in a final, shuddering breath and closed my eyes, embracing the darkness that would lead me to a place beyond all pain. As the enveloping darkness wrapped around me, I experienced a sudden sensation of lightness, as if an immense weight had been lifted from my chest. The pain that had so relentlessly gripped my body began to dissolve into the void, leaving no trace behind. It felt as though I had been released from the chains of the physical world. I opened my eyes, anticipating only emptiness, but instead, I found myself floating above the park bench where my lifeless body lay. The world around me appeared altered, a spectral reflection of reality. The colors were subdued, and everything was bathed in a faint, otherworldly glow. I came to realize that I had been drifting aimlessly, seemingly for an eternity, until I arrived at a wide, desolate road. The landscape stretched infinitely in all directions, shrouded in a dim, eerie light. Surrounding me were other souls, each moving steadily along the path. They appeared as faint, shimmering figures, almost translucent yet unmistakably human. Despite the overwhelming number of these souls, I took note of the faces of those around me. What struck me most was the realization that each person seemed to be driven by an unseen force, advancing with a clear sense of purpose. There was no hesitation or looking back. Their expressions were solemn, almost resigned, as though they were fully aware of their destination. At first, our pace was slow and deliberate, but it soon became clear that we were moving with an unnatural swiftness, as if walking on an invisible conveyor belt. The urgency intensified with every moment. The road narrowed, and the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive, with the air becoming thick and stifling. The path twisted and turned, leading us deeper into a suffocating darkness. With each step, the sense of doom grew stronger, but turning back was not an option. We were all on this journey together, heading into an unknown void. Initially, the sounds were merely distant murmurs, but they grew louder and more distinct as we progressed. The cries of anguish, desperate wails, and tortured screams reverberated around us, disorienting as they seemed to come from all directions simultaneously. Each step brought us closer to the source of this suffering, and I could feel the intense agony in those voices, a profound, relentless torment that shook me to my core. A terrifying realization began to take hold. This road seemed to lead to a place of profound suffering. The thought filled me with dread, but I couldn't stop moving forward. The path was set, and the force propelling us was too strong to resist. We passed through a massive gate of dark, twisted metal, adorned with disturbing carvings. As we crossed the threshold, the true nature of our destination became evident. This was a realm of immense torment and despair inside. The scene was horrifying. Fiery landscapes stretched out before us, and countless souls were visibly distressed. Their cries filled the heavy air, while dark figures moved among them, exacerbating their suffering. Pain was an unending cycle with no visible escape. The realization hit me hard. I was in a place of deep suffering with no way out. The darkness and harsh conditions, illuminated only by flickering flames, were overwhelming. Souls endured harsh conditions and relentless torment, while the figures around them seemed to revel in their misery, constantly finding new ways to intensify their suffering. I had been saving my pain medication for weeks, hiding the pills in a small compartment in my room. I had hoped that using them might offer an escape from the unbearable reality of my daily life. Sitting on a familiar bench, I poured the pills into my hand. Though they looked harmless, I knew they could end my suffering. Hesitating momentarily, the thought of continuing a life filled with pain and isolation drove me to take them. As the medication began to take effect, a numbing fatigue spread through my body. My pain faded, replaced by a profound weariness. My vision blurred and darkness encroached. Lying back on the bench, I looked up at the sky, feeling an unusual relief. The end was near, and with it, the promise of escape from torment. I thought of my parents, wishing them happiness and peace, hoping they would remember me with love rather than as a burden. As I drifted away, I felt a sudden lightness, as if a great weight had been lifted. The pain that had gripped me seemed to dissolve. I opened my eyes, expecting darkness, but instead found myself floating above my lifeless body. The world appeared different, muted and glowing. I felt disconnected from the suffering I had endured. Moving effortlessly, like swimming through air, I drifted until I found myself on a wide, barren road. Other souls moved along it, looking human, but faint and shimmering. They seemed driven by an unseen force, advancing with purpose, their expressions solemn as if they knew their destination. The road continued to narrow, and the atmosphere grew more oppressive. The wails and cries grew louder, heightening the sense of impending doom. We moved faster and faster, unable to slow down or stop. Shadows loomed on either side, and a distant, eerie sound of anguish grew louder. We passed through a massive, twisted gate adorned with tormented faces. Inside, the horrors of hell became apparent. Rivers of lava flowed through the landscape, and souls writhed in pain. Demonic figures moved among them, adding to their torment. Michael Jackson stood apart from the others, enveloped in an aura of suffering. As I approached him, he turned with eyes full of remorse, confessing that he had sold his soul to the devil for fame and success. Now, in hell, he was trapped in a cycle of suffering, haunted by his choices. Bound by heavy chains and subjected to searing pain under a spotlight of fire, he was taunted by demonic figures and forced to confront a mirror reflecting his life's regrets. The realization struck me. I was in hell with no way out. The deep despair was overwhelming, with no redemption or forgiveness in sight. I longed for a chance to undo my choices, but hell offered none, only endless suffering and regret. Suddenly, a force began pulling me upward, reminiscent of the pull that had led me to hell. I regained consciousness in a hospital room, the medical staff calling my recovery miraculous. Despite my heart stopping, I had survived. 2 days later, as I left the hospital, the world seemed transformed. The sky was a vivid blue, and the sunlight was warm. I felt a sense of peace and the presence of a loving higher power. My mission now is to share the message that there is a loving force that cares for each of us. It is crucial to reach out for help and not suffer in silence. There is no shame in seeking support, and someone will always be willing to listen. For those feeling hopeless, I urge you to shift your perspective and embrace the belief that you are valuable and loved. Life is about learning and growing. Each soul has worth, and you are never alone.